And before I get into the results of the audit, just a brief overview of the audit that we do for the commission. It's really, three main, pieces to the audit that we do for the commission when we're doing the financial statement audit. One is we audit the financial statements to make sure that the commission's, financial statements, have been prepared in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. And then the other two pieces of the audit that we do, are done in accordance with government auditing standards. One is, in addition to just looking at the financial statement numbers themselves, as part of the audit, we gain an understanding and review the internal controls that the commission has over its financial reporting. So we'll gain an understanding of that to design our audit test, and we'll test those controls. And then the third piece of the audit is the federal compliance piece that's done in accordance with the uniform guidance. So whenever organization expends over $750,000 in federal grant funds, you have to have a federal compliance single audit done when you have your financial statement audit done. So because the commission meets that threshold, that's the other piece of the audit that we do. So for the major federal grant programs, when we're out doing the audit, OMB provides a compliance supplement with a list of various compliance requirements that the commission has to comply with when it's expending federal grant programs. So we go through that to make sure that the commission is in compliance with those requirements. So those are the three main pieces of the audit that we do. So as such, included in the audited financial statements, there's three different reports from us that communicate the results of the audit. And the first report from us is on page 6 of the audited financial statements. And this report here is our independent auditors report. And in this report is where we state we did perform an audit on the commission's financial statements. And in the second paragraph of this report is where we issue our opinion on the financial statements. And we have issued an unmodified opinion on the commission's financial statements, which is the cleanest opinion the auditor can give on the financial statements. Basically, an unmodified opinion means that the commission's financial statements have been prepared in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. The other two reports from us are in the back of the report, starting on numbered page 70. The first report back there is our report over the commission's internal controls over its financial reporting. This report was clean as well. We noted no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in the commission's internal controls it has over its financial reporting. We feel that the commission has strong internal controls in place over its financial reporting. For instance, or for example, as part of the audit, we had no proposed audit adjustments as part of our audit. Typically, when you go through an audit, you always find things here or there that need to be adjusted, and propose audit adjustments for those. There were no audit adjustments noted. So meaning before we came in to do the audit, the commission's books and records were already adjusted as they should be. So I think that speaks to the strength of the controls that the commission has in place, and to the strength of the finance team to go through an audit and not have any adjustments. And then third and final report from us is our report over the commission's compliance with federal grant programs. This report was clean as well. We noted no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses over the compliance with this major program programs. Also no items of non-compliance were noted as part of the audit. So all three reports from us and all of the financial statements were clean, so very, very clean audit for the commission this year. And just would like to highlight just two financial exhibits in the financial statements. The first is Exhibit 3, which starts on page 20. This is the balance sheet of the commission's governmental funds. This shows the assets, liabilities, and fund balance at the end of the fiscal year. And so at the end of the fiscal year, the commission had all the way over to the right, the total assets were 8.5 million at the end of the fiscal year compared to total liabilities of 6.9 million, which left the fund balance at the end of the fiscal year of 1.5 million. Fund balance, of course, being in excess of the commission's assets over its liabilities. And just one other thing I'd like to highlight is 2 pages over Exhibit 5, on pages 22 and 23. This exhibit shows the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. So that this reports the total revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance during the fiscal year. And if we go to page 23, down towards the bottom, it shows the net change in fund balance during the fiscal year. And commission's fund balance increased by 463,000, almost 464,000 during the fiscal year. So healthy increase for the commission during the fiscal year. But that's all I have. Again, it's very, very clean audit for the commission. But be happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
Any questions? Any comments from staff?
No, we're happy to go into any detail that you guys would like us to, but we did it with the Finance Executive Committee, and with that, there is a recommended motion that the Finance Executive Committee of the Commission recommends a motion to accept the FY 24 financial audit as presented.
Anyone?
So moved.
All right, I'll second that. Motion's been made by Mr. Rutherford, seconded by Mr. DeRozio. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes. Anybody against? Chair votes aye. The motion passes unanimously. Okay, moving on then. Thank you, Mr. Hall. Thank you very much. And thanks for having me. Certainly kudos to the staff for their excellent work and basically throughout the year, but also in preparing the reports. A big job. And Ms. Greene is new to the position, so we certainly appreciate all our hard work.
Did I note that we're actually properly funded for pension liabilities within the organization? That we are funded with a surplus?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so why isn't there a press release? We've got to be the only governmental agency I know of.
Yeah, it's not very common to have a net pension asset, most of the other way, but.
Just want to make sure I was reading that right.
Yeah.
That was a little surprising.
Very well. Thank you again, Mr. Paul.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You do.
All right, moving on then, we have the hazard mitigation update, Ms. Isabella O'Brien.
Sorry, this is usually your job.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Isabella O'Brien, Regional Planner 2 with the TJPDC, and tonight I'll provide a quick overview of hazard mitigation plan. There we go. And we'll explore FEMA's updated requirements as of 2023 and outline our timeline for the required 2028 Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan update. So in 2001, the Disaster Mitigation Act mandated that local governments develop and adopt hazard mitigation plans to receive FEMA funding. These plans must be updated every 5 years. Our region's original plan was first adopted by all localities in the region in 2006 and has undergone 3 updates since. The last plan was approved in 2023 And the next update is required to be approved by FEMA and adopted by all of our region's localities by February of 2028. We are beginning to develop our pre-application for the hazard mitigation grant program to fund the planning process, and we wanted to provide commissioners with context on what the plan entails and what they can expect as we move forward towards the 2028 milestone. So a typical FEMA compliant plan encompasses these 4 key elements shown here. So as part of the planning process, we assemble a team with representation from local staff, emergency management in each jurisdiction, and key stakeholders like UVA and water authorities. We also work to engage the whole community and review regional priorities, progress, existing plans and data to ensure it is accurate and up to date. The risk assessment identifies potential hazards, assesses their likelihood and severity, and evaluates the community's unique vulnerabilities to such hazards. And then the mitigation strategy is the bulk of the plan, where we work with localities to just develop effective and locally specific mitigation strategies, prioritize those actions, consider a range of mitigation options, including nature-based solutions, structural solutions. And it's important to note here that for each locality's specific mitigation strategy, it's essential to tie in planned mitigation projects to qualify for funding for those projects through FEMA grants. And then our last step, which is ongoing, is the plan maintenance and implementation, starting with the plan adoption. So if this involves public feedback, a review by the Virginia Department of Emergency Management, and then by FEMA, incorporating those comments, and then presenting the plan across our region for formal adoption. Once adopted, the region staff and stakeholders continue to implement the mitigation strategy, and we maintain this plan by coordinating annual working group meetings and tracking the progress of the specific mitigation actions. Next slide. So we're just going a little bit more into detail. Our existing regional plan includes the necessary components I just showed, which are further divided into the sections outlined here. So the risk assessment really involves an in-depth community profile to understand social vulnerabilities, critical infrastructure, natural and cultural resources, the sensitive environments, and the social networks. It also identifies natural hazards and profiles their prevalence, intensity, and geographic scope. The vulnerability assessment combines hazard ID with current and future human settlement patterns to ensure potential human impacts are incorporated using advanced models. It also estimates potential losses based on historical events, scenarios, and the possibility of future events. The capabilities assessment is conducted by your local staff, and it evaluates each jurisdiction's planning, regulatory, administrative, and technical capabilities, as well as the financial and educational programs supporting hazard mitigation planning and capacity. Using this information, local jurisdictions in the working group develop the mitigation strategy, which is the core of the plan, and focuses on creating practical strategies to reduce hazard risk. So every 5 years, as I mentioned, the mitigation plan needs to be reviewed and updated as circumstances may change, disasters, the effects of climate change, increased areas of development within hazard-prone areas, or other impacts from changing population and demographics. So these are some of the grant programs that support local governments in building resilience and the capacity to mitigate hazards. These grants can fund projects like generators for critical facilities, public warning systems, floodproofing, wildfire mitigation, to name a few. And quoting the code here, a local jurisdiction must review and revise its plans to reflect changes in development, progress in local mitigation efforts, and changes in priorities, and resubmit it for approval within 5 years in order to continue to be eligible for mitigation project grant funding. Sharing a little bit more about the local benefits on this slide. Local governments must develop those mitigation action strategies, and local staff must be engaged throughout that process of development. So an example of the local benefits and what this process can look like, this is one of the mitigation actions from Nelson County. Nelson County is currently awaiting approval for a FEMA grant to replace aging generators for multiple fire and EMS stations. These outdated generators are hindering or can hinder emergency response during power outages and limit the use of these buildings as emergency shelters. And when they initially sent in the grant application, it was deemed ineligible because this project wasn't included in the mitigation action strategy. And we worked with Nelson, VDEM, and FEMA to update the plan, incorporate the strategy, and now they are waiting to hear back on the funds. But since the plan update in 2023, we have seen multiple grants awarded within the region. There's been grants awarded to Greene authorities to replace aging infrastructure with new generators, and in Greene County for generators for their 911 center, administration building, and the volunteer fire department. So FEMA, as of April 19, 2023, updated its local planning policy to require hazard mitigation plans to consider climate change. These plans must now assess how climate change, population shifts, and land use changes could impact a community's vulnerability to future disasters. And FEMA also emphasizes a whole community approach, which means it engages the public to ensure everyone's needs are considered. And on this next slide here, I'm just pulling out a section from FEMA's policy guide. And this is about the most specific language related to climate change, which states to address it and how it relates to the frequency, the severity, the geographic location, and extent of these hazards. Next.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and then next steps, once FEMA releases the official notice of funding opportunity for the hazard mitigation grant program, and speaking with VDEM, this is supposed to be this fall and winter, staff will return to the commission with a program budget and resolution of support as required for part of the final application. We will apply. This is not a competitive program, and we are likely to kick off the planning process next October when the federal fiscal year begins. Thanks for your time. Anybody have any questions?
This is questions. Louisa County participate in this?
Thank you.
Because we don't participate in the flood.
Yeah, they're different. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good to know. We're the only county in the state, last I looked, that doesn't participate in the flood.
What is a flood plan?
FEMA's
Flood plan or flood plan?
floodplain.
You said
Floodplain.
No.
So the National Flood
Floodplain.
Insurance
So-
Program, they
People in Louisa County cannot buy
Flood
flood
insurance.
insurance that's supplemented by FEMA.
and I believe that disqualifies you for certain grant programs, but this covers all hazard events, not just flooding.
Okay, yeah, that's what I meant. Thank you. But we got a lot of help when we work with the new schools.
I thought it was only one. That's good to know.
Just a follow-up question, provided the grant application is successful, when would these monies become available?
Most likely October of next year, when the federal fiscal year begins. So about a 2.5-year planning process, which is typical.
Well, I just was curious, you have a sentence, plan approved and adopted by February 1st, 2028.
Yep, it's just over a 2-year planning process. So we would start in fall of 2026 for approval in 2028.
You get monies in October of 25?
Yeah, you can do up to 3 years, that you can use the funding for up to 3 years, and you can actually ask for extensions beyond that. Yep, so we normally like to apply the year in advance of kicking off the planning so that we know the funding is there and ready to go. And this one, correct me if I'm wrong, if you will, this one is an 80-20 federal local split, And the local comes out of the per capita that you guys already contributed as part of your per capita member assessment. That covers the 20% required match.
And we'll go over the budget in more detail the next time I speak to you about hazard mitigation.
Any other questions? Well, thank you for all your hard work. Sounds like we've got a lot of busy times ahead of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Good.
So moving on now, we'll go to the Regional Housing Partnership update. Housing Summit and Study, Ms. Emmerich and Mr. Lee.
So I am excited to update you all a little bit about the summit and then the study that are in the works. So we'll just kind of dive right in.
No, sharing my mind. Okay. Just let me know. Sorry, throwing it all together.
Okay, let's do the next one.
We had to be out unexpectedly, so we had to do a quick pivot. Forgive our technical errors.
Okay.
Technical errors.
So what's really great is that this will be the third summit and our amazing planning committee people, two of whom are here. Thank you guys for being on the planning committee. Had a lot of vision and they were very clear that they wanted this next summit to be about solutions. And so that's what we've been planning and that's what we're kind of putting together. So our big objective for this time around, if we want to jump to the next slide, is to gather people together who can offer solutions and strategies to help planners, private companies, government folks, nonprofits, all come together and look for strategies that we haven't yet adopted in our region. And then of course to network with each other to be able to accomplish those things. I went back and evaluated the attendance at the last summit. It was over 200 people and it was almost perfectly evenly split amongst those three groups of for-profit, nonprofit, and public. And we've gotten so many great reports about how phenomenal the networking is at these things and how much people can kind of put their heads together and start thinking about projects that they can work on together. So we can move to the next one. So the basic agenda is not that dissimilar from last time, even if the content is like a little bit different. So the evening before, we will have the cocktail networking hour again at Common House. So folks who are just automatically invited to that would be you all, RHP members, speakers at the event and sponsors. And then we'll have limited tickets for purchase this time. And then before that, our plan, I think, is to have an RHP meeting. Because last time we had at the end of the summit day and everyone was really tired. So instead, that will be kicking it all off. And then the next day will be the summit, so that's March 13th, 2025. Also at the Omni again. Our keynote speaker is Erica Sims from HD Advisors. She's been central to affordable housing work across the state for many years. Their HD Advisors is involved with Virginia Housing, Housing Forward Virginia, Maggie Walker, like all these different, the statewide land trust as well, a million different housing programs. And she's also just a phenomenal speaker, very moving. So that day will be 8 a.m. to 3:30-ish p.m. with the intention that people can go connect afterwards since it's ending early enough. And as with last time, there will be networking hours built in during the day as well. And there will be 3 different breakout session slots, each with their own 3 separate sessions that people can choose from. Can I get a show of hands? Who here attended one of the past 2?
Attended the cocktail hour.
You know what?
That counts.
That better something than nothing. Yeah, I mean, I got to go to the last one and it was just phenomenal. So if you haven't had a chance yet, please plan to come. Or even if you did come before, come again. I think it's going to be a great opportunity for both learning and connecting with people and looking for solutions. Okay, we can jump ahead. So we have over 20, I think, really phenomenal speakers coming already. We have a range of for-profit affordable housing developers. We have these folks. So Erica Sims is the one on the left side. I already told you a little bit about her. Rocky Piro will be talking about comprehensive planning and how to think about preparing for affordable housing within your comprehensive plan. He's an expert on comprehensive planning specifically. Angie Rogers is from Prince George's County, and they have just a wide range of programs that they've been implementing. And their county alone includes kind of semi-urban to fully rural areas. And so really interesting case studies there. Christopher Smith is very familiar. He is with LISC, and he'll be talking about looking at vacancies in the rural areas, which is something I've heard a lot from folks as a concern. And how to address heirs property and things like that. Isabel McLean is the Director of Policy and Advocacy at VHA, Virginia Housing Alliance. So those are just some examples of people who will be there. We can jump to the breakouts. So I put kind of a list of some of the breakouts. We can give you a more fleshed out description if you're interested. Soon it will be on the website, hopefully within the next few weeks. But it's going through all sorts of really important topics. We're trying to kind of cover the gamut and think about what people will be interested in. So addressing homelessness through Housing First solutions. The Harrisonburg folks are going to be here talking about this new strategy that they're using. That's pretty amazing, public-private NGO collaboration. We'll be looking at different populations. So there's the one on where will teachers and mechanics live. We'll be thinking about, well, what are the tools available to planners and elected officials in the state of Virginia as a dual enroll state. Different ways of preserving communities, thinking about both displacement and preserving the feel of the community that has been really established while allowing for more affordable housing to be available. So a whole bunch of really interesting topics, and feel free to contact me if you want to talk any more about it. Really have appreciated people's input throughout this whole process so far. So the last slide about this one is about funding. So I put little pie charts there because I love pie charts, having the visual. So you can see we're about 21,000 away from meeting our goal, which I don't think is too bad for the timeline that we're at right now. But we are looking for more sponsors. There's the potential of one more grant, but we're not quite sure about it because it's so competitive. But so you can kind of see where the expenditures are going and where the revenues are coming from right now. Any questions about that before I move on to the study?
Mr. Chairman, can I jump in for a second? Yeah. So I want to take an opportunity.
I'm gonna just hide these. No, hold on, sorry, never mind. It's just a lot of customer on there. Yeah. It's bothering me. Sorry, my apologies.
I just want to take an opportunity to thank staff. If anybody's ever been involved in putting on an event of this size, it is an awesome undertaking. And this is our premier event for the Regional Housing Partnership. And folks that have attended the other sessions I've seen at other events talk about how awesome this is put together. But without Laura Jean, and particularly her, because she has to put up with one pain in the butt commission member. I don't know who that is, Jesse. It's me. So I want to say thank you for putting up with me because I can be difficult. But this is, I just want to publicly say this. Thank you for doing that. And this is going to be an awesome event. And without their staff support, we wouldn't be here. So I really want to take an opportunity to publicly thank you guys, and you in particular.
Thank you. And thank you both for your ongoing massive efforts and support in doing this summit. And I will say Hayden as well.
And 21 grand, guys. You know anybody, we need to start raising 21 grand to make this happen, and it is coming up fast, so.
We
Reach
do.
out.
Ridge Home Builders.
Huh?
There's a.
I can't hear you.
Blue Ridge
Green
Home Builders.
Ridge Home Builders.
It's on our list.
There are some stalwarts of philanthropy and largesse.
It is on our list.
The Association of Manufactured Housing.
They donate.
Ours.
Welcome.
I mean, especially since Charlottesville's not.
But this is important, so if you know anybody, reach out to us.
You know, manufactured housing, I guess the new updates require, part of the code now requires that counties accept manufactured housing. Is that something that's gonna be addressed?
On the comp plan, it requires you to address it.
Addressed.
In other words, you can't not address manufactured housing. It hasn't necessarily translated to the zoning yet. Where we need to allow it or anything.
Are you speaking at this, around the summit, or just?
Well, I was basically asking the question both ways.
Yeah.
Part of the summit or not part of the summit, and
I mean, it's required in your comp plan to address it.
yeah.
Though the breakout sessions are awesome, the secret sauce in this summit is the networking session time between each. That's where the real magic happens. Thank you. I just want to say thank you.
We don't currently have manufactured housing specifically addressed in the whole section, but it is going to be part of.
We did that on the first summit, if I'm not mistaken.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about it on the first one.
But anyway, thank you.
Yeah, just so everyone knows, for sponsorships, and obviously we'll take anything, but the lowest level is at $1,000. And then it kind of has several levels. All that information is on our website, but I can also get it directly to you all. We do still have one $10,000 level available, which is an exclusive for the filming. So we will be having each session filmed, and then we'll be putting out those videos, and whoever is the exclusive sponsor will have their logo and information there. So for those who are interested in that, that is probably for a short time. So if they want it, they need to come in, you know. Okay, cool. On to the study. Okay, so we are currently preparing for the 2025 Regional Housing Needs Assessment and Strategies Study, I think is the full name. We have not done a regional housing needs assessment since 2019. I think that was the very first time our region had done that at the regional level. And so it is, you know, really time for us to see how things have changed since then and have updated data and information.
I love Livingston, thank you.
I know.
Better job.
It was
And
the
that's
best
there.
picture of our region that I've found.
Pretty much.
So, yeah, sorry.
What's your building?
All of them.
So the purpose of this study is to identify gaps and needs in housing affordability across the region. We want to understand our housing ecosystem a little better and really have data to back it up. We want to, you know, of course, understand the cost burden that people are living with, everything from commuting patterns to the impact of housing on economic development, and just in general have accurate data for planning and funding purposes across the region. The plan is that it's a regional study, but we've definitely heard loud and clear that every locality really wants specific focus on their unique needs, because as we know, every county and the city all have such different just economic context, housing context, work context. So that is going to be deeply incorporated, and it's going to have split out sections within. So there will be the regional focus, we're not going to lose that, but just making sure that as people participate, as localities participate, that they are getting the specific data that they need and the specific attention that they need. A big part of this is not just getting the current data, but also, so we'll be working with VCHR, which is the Virginia Center for Housing Research. And they've done a lot of wonderful regional studies. I'm happy to share samples. There's a lot online from other PDCs and localities very similar to ours. So they have a lot of expertise in this very specific type of study. But then we will also have Housing Forward Virginia partnering as well, and they'll be along for the whole process. They'll be listening to the listening sessions, the focus groups, looking at the data from the beginning, and then within year 2, they'll start presenting strategies to each locality. I think it's a menu of 24 per locality that then the locality staff and electeds can kind of work closely and directly with the Housing Forward Virginia staff, on identifying, well, which of these feel the most relevant, yes, it's based on data, it's based on already hearing what we're saying. But which feels the most relevant and which is the most feasible, and really narrowing that down. And again, they have done that work with other regions around the state. So really amazing to have these experts who are very hands-on. So we're kind of getting a really good, it's not cheap, but it's a really good deal still for what they're able to offer. So also included in this is training local staff. So in the beginning of the first half of this next year, when this begins, they'll do listening sessions, but then there will also be 5 to 7 trainings, kind of depending on what people are most interested in, where locality staff, TJPDC staff, some nonprofits have already voiced an interest, can participate in trainings, learning how to obtain the data and analyze it in the ways that are, simple enough for us to replicate, so that we can spend less money on consultants in the future when we just want to kind of update some numbers. So that's a really cool thing. And then that cuts costs actually for us, because part of the homework for that is then we're all collecting some of our own data and helping analyze it. We're certainly not doing all of it or the bulk of it, but our homework and our practice time will actually go into the study as well. So yeah, those are the main goals of funding this study. So the benefits, now, so every locality is obviously going to be involved. This is a regional study, but as far as the strategies portion, localities that provide funding for that are going to get a lot more attention and going to be able to participate more in that part. But everybody's going to benefit from just obtaining data that's sometimes really hard to come by, that VCHR is really expert in finding and analyzing. And they've really talked about how they're going to prioritize local goals and really listen to, okay, Louisa is much more interested in this side of the housing question. City of Charlottesville is more interested in this, they're really open to hearing what are our goals and what do we want to see happen. And then analyzing data and talking about strategies through that lens, which is kind of a big deal, I think. And then the last slide, the next steps are just securing funding, finishing some grants that we're applying for. Some of the last localities who are waiting to see what grants come in before they make their decisions of how to participate. And we have already had one meeting of the project management team. They'll be starting to meet quarterly once this gets rolling. So they'll be kind of providing some really good oversight and hearing updates every quarter. And then come early in the new year, we'll start doing listening sessions with VCHR. And of course, all of you will be invited to those. You'll be some of the first ones. So they, like I said, they really want to hear what the goals are, what the concerns are before they even look at any of the quantitative data, so that they have that lens through which to understand it. So any questions on that?
Are all the localities participating?
Everyone will be included, but as far as participating in the strategies portion, there are some who are still considering it.
We have 4 confirmed. We went to a 5th that asked us to come back after we'd heard what grant funding we received, so they knew the exact amount. We went out asking for a not to exceed amount, and then we're still in discussions with staff on the scope of work. One of the things that we felt really strongly with is in the previous rendition, it was we collected a sum of funds and we gave it to a consultant, and the consultant came back with the deliverable. And it was really important for us that this was a process that built capacity within the region, within the staff, to be able to be doing this ongoing, because it really doesn't make a lot of sense, especially with how housing has been in the last 5 years, to wait 5 years to get updated data. We need to be able to do that on rolling year to year as we're looking at, updating comp plans. So we felt really strongly about this approach where it's working alongside the consultant versus having them deliver a product. The other thing we were really impressed with VCHR, did I put those letters in order? I always do it backwards, VCHR, is they are abundantly clear with us that they have zero interest in putting together strategies that are not supported by local governments. They do not want plans that sit there. And so this is really intended to be locally driven. They are not coming in to say, you should, based on the data, this is what you need, this is what we're, they want to be working directly with staff to be identifying what is it that your jurisdiction is looking for? What is it that they're not looking for, and making sure that it's tailored to each jurisdiction. So we felt really strongly about that as well. The last housing study, if you remember, came with a strategies plan that came after it. We view that more as a toolkit. It was less of an individualized strategies as it was, here are all of the different options of strategies that can be used in order to address housing needs. And so this one feels very different than that from our perspective.
The Stanton, Augusta, Waynesboro area is just kind of, they've wrapped up the whole creation of the study and they're in the implementation phase. And I've gotten to attend some of their gatherings as they're working with the same folks that we'll be working with. And it's pretty amazing to see the collaborative sense, like the rallying behind shared goals that people have gone through this process and agreed upon. That alone seems like such an amazing resource to us, you know, to be able to work with folks who can help us get there.
I was gonna add that certainly in that process, working with staff and, you know, local officials, that really does help to inform and guide strategies that make a lot of sense. And I think there's still a lot of, you know, still a lot of lack of understanding of the demands that are out there, so lesser important to participate, I would say.
What's the timeline?
I can give you a very detailed one on paper, but basically the first year, which would start in January 2025, is going to be focused on kind of gathering all the information, compile it. They'll have a lit review, the trainings. So by the end of 2025, they would have kind of a draft report. And then the second year is much more focused on the strategies and finalizing the reports and stuff like that.
And all of, I'm sorry, I thought you were done. All of there'll be like raw data and everything available much sooner than that. You know, come
Like what we
May,
have.
June of this year, right? It's then doing all the
Yeah.
analysis and putting it into a report that takes the remainder.
One of my favorite portions of the old one that I still cite to this day is the workforce aspect. How many people drive in and how many people drive out?
Yep.
How many people live and work in your jurisdiction? That was very powerful.
That's the census on the map tool, and that's one of the tools
Yeah.
they'll be using.
Yeah.
Metadata.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments? Well, thank you, Mr. Lee. Moving on next to the consent agenda, we have the minutes and September 7th financial reports.
I move that we accept the approve the consent.
We have a motion, and we have a second.
Second.
Motion's been made by Mr. Durango and seconded by Mr. Payne. All those in favor? Aye. Chair votes aye, the motion passes unanimously.
I abstain. I was-
Oh, I'm sorry, I did not, yeah, you said that, I'm sorry, it does not, yes, there's one abstention.
Yeah.
Okay, very well. Next is Q1, July, September 2024 financial reports. Screen.
In the,
Yes.
I present a memo for the purpose of detailing the quarterly reports for the commission's financials of July through September of 2024. In the packet for September, or the commission, it included the September financial dashboard, accrued revenue report, and consolidated profit and loss statement and balance sheet, which is the typical monthly. Additionally, we've added this quarter one profit and loss prior year comparison statement currently shown on the screen as well. So in a high level, again, similar format as the financial dashboard on a monthly basis, we're gonna look at quick assets, not on the screen. It's more of just a summary of information. The net quick assets have increased by $70,580 from June. So that's just the increase in the 3-month time period. Based on the 12-month average of operating expenses, we have 11.8 months of available operating expenses compared to 11.28 also in June.
unrestricted cash on hand as of September 30th was $363,000, which equates to 2.69 months of average monthly operating expenses. The net gain for September was $14,966, which results in a cumulative fiscal year net gain of $67,223. Now, as it relates to what's on the screen, in the budget versus actual, we are about 25% complete. We are actually 25% complete of the fiscal year of 2025. So that's our kind of our marker in time. Through September, our total income was 29.2% of the 42.6 million budgeted. For expenses through September, we are 20.95% of the 2.40, no, 2 million budgeted. And the total pass-through expenditures for September were 29.45% of the 40.6 million budgeted. Whoa, no, sorry about that. The balance sheet, basically just calling out that the accounts receivables were $7.6 million as of September 30th. And that is an increase over this time last year, but it is very much attributable to the intensification of the billing activity on the body program. So they had gotten behind on several of the months worth of expenses kind of coming through. So they've increased their speed at which they're getting through those and passing through these expenses. And that also relates to the total liabilities also on the balance sheet showing as a much higher number. It's 7.8 million, and then again is body pass through once it goes out. So that's just representative of those numbers. And on the accrued revenue report, as of September, we had 33,399,000 in grant funds remaining for this fiscal year, of which 31.6 million are pass-through funds. Remaining for the 9 months then is the 191,000 available for the average monthly operating expenses. So the 12-month average operating expenses is $135,100. Operating expenses last month, the month of September, were $140,252. That is the quarterly summary. Any questions?
Questions? All right, very well. Thank you. So next is staff professional development field trip, Fluvanna and Louisa counties. Ms. Jacobs and
This is, David is gonna do this one, he's gotta get it up.
Oh, okay. It says Ruth is doing
Ruth is unexpectedly out, your name's there too.
I am.
So, yeah, this is gonna be fun.
This is fun. This is
because we had fun. So, TJPDC has, embarked on what will be a multi-part, or multi-phase, staff development and team building activity that is focused on, are you just kind of scrolling through?
I don't know, it's doing it automatically. Did you set motions in your slides?
No, you know, I didn't have it.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't. Well, I didn't do it constantly. Wow, man, I did some good stuff. Is it just gonna be those two?
I don't know, but I'll keep them moving.
There we go.
I'll keep
Well,
them
that's
moving.
actually better. Yeah, focused on getting out into the localities, the 6 member jurisdictions of TJPDC. And our goal is to really have our staff become more familiar with you all, with your localities, with the members. You know, to get them out, to see, to hear, to experience, you know, what goes on in the localities. And, you know, to hear about what things are, you know, important to you, what are like the critical things in your county. And so we started out on October 11th, was the day, it was Friday. We jumped on a bus, and our first stop, that was the first picture there. We first went to Louisa County, And we were joined by, Christian Goodwin, County Administrator, and Andy Wade, who's the Director of Economic Development. And there you can see Christian on the bus, talking with us. We went, let's see, we started out in Louisa, where we go. First stop was at the high school, so we got to see the fire-breathing lion. We got to see the big jumbotron, Tommy, which is pretty amazing.
Pay for that.
Not sure.
We went to Lake Anna, and got to get out and see parts of the lake, and then ended up at Spring Creek. And I think, just a couple of the key takeaways, I guess, from Louisa, obviously education, the lake, economic development, very important to you all in Louisa. And I think your staff did a great job of showcasing that for us. But we also, also learned that, with your population growth, you're facing some pressures. But again, I said thank you to the board at Louisa board meeting the other night. Just want to give kudos to Christian and Andy for joining us. It was great to. So somewhere in there, I think you saw Rex. We had lunch at Rex. There in Zion. Well, let me say too, because there you can see a couple of our folks, and I think Christian and Andy both, and then the picture of Christian. Seeing the sites was great and learning about those assets, but there was so much good information and information exchange and discussion and questions and answers that went on both at the stops as well as on the bus. And I think that's where, for me, I think there was a lot of really good value. So we went from Lake Anna to Lake Monticello. We were joined in Fluvanna by Eric Dahl, County Administrator, Kelly Harris, who's Assistant County Administrator, Jennifer Schmack, who's the Economic Development Director, and Todd Fortune, who's your new Planning Director in Fluvanna. And started out there in Zion Crossroads, and we just kind of made this a southern swing, because we went down through Columbia and Fort Union, and I came across some of the southern parts of Fluvanna, and ended up in Palmyra. And the picture there at the end, a bunch of folks standing around there in Palmyra, talking to Eric. Some folks kind of took off, and we're checking out the courthouse, checking out the jail, checking out other parts there of the the kind of courthouse and county office complex there, and others were just we were just having good old conversation about some of the things going on in Fluvanna. So obviously Fluvanna, we learned, very excited about finally after 10 years the James River Water Project. That's a key to
10 years is too long.
Yeah, okay. I remember 10 years is in my mind. 40 years.
Times that by 4, we might.
Okay. You're older.
That's
So
true.
that's fine. But obviously key for Fluvanna. And then also, I guess, some of the challenges that Fluvanna is facing is related to some of your infrastructure that you're starting to talk about, and some of your facilities that really need that you're looking to upgrade so that you can better serve your citizens. So again, thank you to Fluvanna, thank you to Louisa. It was a great trip. We're probably gonna plan our next 2 jurisdictions sometime in the spring. So for the other ones of you, we'll be calling.
Yeah. And being the first time that we did this, we spent a lot of time then debriefing, like what was really valuable, what should we do differently, how often should we do this? And there's a possibility that we may go to 1 jurisdiction at a time instead of 2, just to be able to really spend time, go in and meet with your staff, talk with your team, learn more about like what's pressing. I mean, some of the great questions were like, what keeps you up at night as the county administrator here? What are you most looking forward to in your community? So it was a really great way to connect with the staff that we work with on discrete programs, but certainly not everything that you all deal with. So we were really excited to be able to do this, and it was well received they were so gracious to jump on the bus with us and talk with us for several hours. And the feedback that we got from them as well was like, this was a really great opportunity to meet your team, to connect faces with names and emails, So we hope to do this with all 6 and then get it on some sort of rotation that we're continuing to come out and be present where you all are. It's one thing to talk about different areas of your counties. It's another thing to be in them while you're talking about them and understand the real opportunities and the real pressures that you all are facing. So this was a really great, we started off thinking of it as professional development, then it was team building, and then it was networking, and it was really just a wonderful day is what it ended up. Is
Yeah.
we got a lot, even a lot more out of it than I thought we would. So appreciate your
We
staff.
certainly appreciated having staff out there, and I will say to the folks from Louisa that Mr. Blunt admitted at the end of the meeting last night when he presented this, that Fluvanna County was more beautiful, so.
Diplomatic way.
No, I'm putting him on the spot, he didn't admit to that, but, yeah, just having it back. Cool, thank you, right.
Thank you all for coming out. And you, I think you know you're welcome.
Absolutely.
Any questions from you all? Or feedback on different things to consider for the next round?
Well, Nelson County will commit to fine stays and beverages for your trip.
Yes,
We'll have to stay after 5, so we're off the clock.
Probably gonna be.
I think that should be open to all commission members.
No.
We used to
do that.
Tommy, what year was it that we did the rotating board meeting in each jurisdiction? Can't remember what year that was.
Actually, I think we've done it twice, but, we went to Veritas when we were in Nelson one year.
That's right, I remember that.
Yeah.
That's what we did, we had
Better than not remembering it at all.
we had 1 year, we rotated, each jurisdiction had commission.
It's probably been 12 to 15 years
No, it can't.
since the first round, but I want to say we may have done it twice, at least since I've been here.
I know, yeah, I know we did it. 11 years ago. 12 years ago.
You probably had a great time. Really good, well, I know, yeah, we're professionals.
All right. Any other comments? Okay, so moving on, we have Old Business Department of Environmental Quality. ILJA Implementation Funding Resolution. 2L. LLJA.
Okay, very good. So in September, staff Isabella came to talk to you guys about the watershed improvement program, detailing VDEQ's Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, and that they had some implementation funding, about $3 million this round across the Commonwealth. The previous round, I think there were maybe 4 or 5 different planning district commissions that received implementation funding. So we did apply, we detailed what we were going to apply for the last time that we were here. I'm very pleased to share that we were awarded funding. There is no local match required for this funding. It's $179,000, just over that, for the TJPDC staff and subcontractors to conduct 8 rain barrel workshops throughout the region, and then to manage a pilot regional septic funding assistance program, about $165,000 towards that. We've heard a lot working with our housing nonprofits that they are always looking for funding related to septic. And so really pleased with Isabella's work. Thank you so much for everything you did for that. Congrats on the award. And then since it is not within the approved budget, we just wanted to bring a resolution forward to you all to accept that funding, and then to negotiate into a contract with DEQ to be able to administer this. And there is a recommended motion, and we're happy to take questions, but staff recommends the motion to authorize the executive director to accept $179,317.63 from the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality's Chesapeake Bay BMP implementation grant and execute a sub-award agreement with DEQ.
So. Been made by Mr. Penny. I'll second. By Mr. Geronzo, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? Chair votes aye, the motion passes unanimously. All right, moving on to the executive director's report, Ms. Jacobs.
Just a couple of high level updates. We are in our final stages of procurement for getting consultants for 2 different projects. The first was to get a firm to do classification and compensation study, and the second was to do recruitment. Been a lot more challenging to secure these proposals than we thought. We're pretty small potatoes compared to large jurisdictions, and so this is such a small contract that it's taken a little longer than we would have liked it to. But we're at the final stages. We should be selecting both firms shortly and kicking those off. Again, that's contingency funding, so that doesn't require any amendment to our budget. The next one is our staff in the last month has taken advantage of a lot of different professional development opportunities, making sure we expand our team's technical capacity and understanding of all of the different associations and organizations that we can engage in. Anything from Virginia Municipal League, the Association of Metropolitan Planning Organizations. We did, some OSHA training is on the horizon, the Governor's Summit for Rural Prosperity, the Rural Planning Caucus. So I just wanted to highlight some of the different things that we're taking advantage of to make sure that we're staying as up to date as we can with our staff's training to be able to serve you guys better. In my report is the detailed monthly metrics for the body 2022 grant. So those are in the packet. And then finally, the legislative services, as you guys know, because we've been out, David has been attending your governing body meetings with the regional legislative program. And then the rest of these, I don't think I'm going to get into high detail. They are in your packet, but lots of activity right now with the transportation planning, transit planning. And then, as you heard from Lori Jean, with the housing study and the housing summit. So we're spinning a lot of plates. We've got folks really busy here, but doing really good work that we're excited about.
Excellent. I was remiss to not recognize Miss O'Brien as well too for her work, so I apologize for that, Mrs.
I think she left,
She
but
left, okay.
it's recorded.
Very well then. Next is the roundtable discussion.
I'm sorry.
Roundtable discussion.
Yeah. That's you all, your roundtable.
Oh, great. Anyone want to go first?
She's asking me, should we start playing the game? You're talking about the roundtable. I'm like,
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right, Mr. Rutherford, you look like you need to wake up, so.
It's been a long day. It's been a long 5 months. I'm trying to think of kind of big things. We're kicked off the zoning meeting, had some pretty good participation on 151 corridor. Had a second meeting, just kind of a town hall discussion, to write the roadmap for our rezoning. It was fairly well attended. Still running into, I know in my district, trying to get natives to participate, folks who've got a history in the area. I mean, that's always a struggle. Always, I think the last one I counted, maybe 2 people who actually grew up in Nelson, 2 to 5, something like that. So that was a little disheartening, but that's always a struggle. Beyond that, we got a series of grants in Livingston. We did get a grant for the sidewalks. I'm sure you guys have heard about that. $1 million bucks. We got another grant related to sewer improvements, more millions of bucks. We recently purchased a building in Livingston to turn the DSS to improve one of the areas over there, but also give DSS a home. And it turns out to be more affordable. So that's a 3-way win for us. Add some more parking. We just had Halloween, and it is speculated that we had close to 3,000 kids in Livingston. It was insane. This is the first year that people reported running out of candy in 2.5 hours. So it was just remarkable. Never seen anything like it. So clearly, Livingston loves Halloween. Let's see, Helene impacted this a little bit, but not too bad. I had a few bridges washed away. So working with some constituents on that. Did anybody declare a state of emergency for your county?
We did.
How did it? For Helene?
September. End of September.
I think we were in session the day before.
Okay, I just went ahead and did
I'm
it.
thinking of the wrong one.
I think you're thinking of the wildfires.
No,
Oh,
this was recent. I'm pretty sure we did.
I don't remember taking action on it.
All that to say is I've learned a few things with FEMA related towards some opportunities. So private bridges got washed away. The state declared emergency, but the locality also has to declare a state of emergency so that people can then solicit FEMA money for some of these bridges. It was extremely isolated. So I'm in the midst of researching if we can do a retroactive, which I am not sure. So I've asked staff to kind of look into that to allow these people to apply for some FEMA funds that were directly impacted by Helene. Beyond that, I don't really have much more. Ready?
I got a few things. I guess over a year ago, we had a presentation from the Sheriff's Department, from Blue Line Solutions, to put traffic cameras around the schools, which did not pass. We decided not to do it. The sheriff took it upon himself to last month, get funding from us to, add a speed enforcement officer to the county. So now we have a real live person doing that work and having a presence on both 29 and 51, which is a great thing our sheriff's been able to do. You've probably heard this before, but in January, we will have the dedication of the new Nelson County Service Authority Wintergreen Mountain wastewater treatment. So that's finally going to be up and running. It's in testing stages right now. In December, we will have in front of us the Wild Rose Solar Project, the 90 megawatt solar farm proposed for Gladstone area. We have two other members on the board, not us, two others that are working with them to come up with the final site plan and the whole package that we'll look at in December. So looking forward to see what that's going to look like. And finally, at the Heritage Center, south of Livingston, we're going to have the grand opening of the new Virginia Health Department, which is moving from its previous location at Louisa Medical Center there. And this is going to anchor the Heritage Center, which is a community center which has a nonprofit that's driving it, and all local community members making that happen. So the old Black Middle School is going to have a new face. The southern part now has a new face. It's got the signage up, and on November 22nd, they'll have a grand opening. Went from being a good idea to actually happening. So we'll great to see that.
Well, Mr. Brawley, you want to go next?
Take this opportunity to blame Fluvanna. We had a meeting Monday night, everything has been going relatively quiet. Amazon is broken ground, they're pushing dirt, and I hope they hurry up. And many projects that people are coming forward with that they want money for, we will need Amazon real quick. We just voted to put in 2 new AstroTurf fields. They said Fluvanna got one, so we gotta have. We can't keep up with that.
Exactly, Brian.
So,
Fluvanna's also got a 10-cent higher tax rate. What?
Of course, we don't have a nuclear power plant.
but anyway, Amazon is rolling, and we got 2 AstroTurf fields now on the books, but, we'll see how it goes. But everybody's coming out to woodworks with, opportunities for us to spend money. But we also gotta keep the taxes, need to lower them too at the same time. So
What's your general fund,
Any,
like 60 million
they
now or something?
help us figure out how to spend money and not raise taxes. That's not,
I heard Fluvanna was gonna let you have a little bit.
I hope so. We're keeping a close eye on
Not bad.
All right, Mr. Woodward.
Well, the biggest thing by far in Louisa County is Amazon. And as Mr. Barlow says, they have broken ground and moving a lot of dirt. This is all down at the 148 acre campus down next to the Fluvanna Power Station. Well, along those lines, the governor was out, I don't know, it's been 3 months ago now, I guess, down in Fluvanna, signed the thing about the small modular reactors, and that he, hopefully Fluvanna will be. So Dominion's been looking for somebody to partner up with as far as the engineering work, whatever studies they have to do prior to. So Amazon's ponying up but it sounds 500 million, $500,000 to me sounds better than 500 million. So in whichever way you put it, it's a lot of money that they're putting up, and I mean, it's no doubt more than likely there'll be one there, and Dominion and Amazon will partner for it to build it. And, we're hoping that maybe there'll be multiples, not just one. We're hearing about $2.5 billion to build one. So, that'll be some more tax money. But, you know, the water and energy are the two things that data centers just suck up like crazy. So James River, we're looking at the possibility, you know, the James River water was gonna be for people to drink, take baths with and stuff. I think we're gonna wind up also having it being used for some of the data centers as well. So,
Do the data centers need potable water, or can they have other
No,
water?
no, no. This is the deal that we have with them. They're gonna build the reservoir or that the water authority has, that we own, the county owns, is down near Cuckoo, Northeast Creek. So the biggest data center campus is about 1,400 acres right across the road from the reservoir. But the campus at the North Anna Power Station is about, well, that pipeline's gonna be 12 or 14 miles. We're gonna build it, the county's gonna have it built and pay for it. But every month, Amazon's gonna pay us back for building. But the biggest thing is, we charge $7.77 per 100,000 gallons or whatever it is of potable water. Amazon's gonna pay that price, but it's not gonna be treated. It's gonna be raw water, which we charge about 52 cents for the same amount. So that's gonna be a pretty big deal for the water authority, income wise. I've gotten to be friends with a fellow that works for Clark Construction, who Amazon hired to do the work, the construction work, and he's on the water side of it. They're gonna have, it's 3 800,000 gallon water tanks there, because at first they're gonna use well, so they're drilling these deep wells down there. And once the water line's completed, then they'll switch over to that. And then they have some small water tanks down there as well. So anyway, it's all, it's a big deal. I know y'all probably tired of hearing us talk about it, but it's probably the biggest thing for Louisa County income wise. That, you know, we thought North Anna Power Station was something. This is pretty unusual. The contracts for 11 data centers, it's going to be big.
So will you have to put in, get voter approval for putting in the small modular nuclear reactors, or will those be on the campus already, as part of?
They'd be at North Anna, and whether it requires anything else,
Yeah. So I'm curious to see, you know, and that doesn't really sound like a small modular nuclear reactor. I mean, it makes some of the size of the trucks right now.
No, these are.
This is a big one. This is a big one.
Moderately sized.
$2.5 billion or something like that. That's gonna be a big
But
one.
much smaller than the conventional reactors that are.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I'm curious to see how, as small as SMRs, what we're talking about, start to take place, and I would suspect, you know, as that technology improves and is more accepted, you would see those reactors being put in place for some of the solar fields, and maybe being put in place as well too, because they're already connected to the grid at that point in time. I would expect to see that, and I'm curious to see what the public's reaction is going to be to that.
Well, I don't want to take up all the time, but I mean, I guess it's okay to talk about that business. Can we told to do from this screen? As far as what they do.
Well, yeah.
Tommy and I were the two supervisors that met with this company. It's a California company, startup company. They came, we have an industrial park that's going, down in Shannon Hill, 1263. So the state brought these people in there, there's more state people there than like us. These people are gonna start, they're gonna make reactors that fit in containers.
Yeah.
Shipping containers and going back and tractor trailers.
Yeah.
80 tons, because it has a lead shield that goes around, and that will be shipped with it. These people release them And every 5 years, they'll come back and be refueled. The problem is spent fuel's gotta stay at the top. So the manufacturing part of it, we're 150 employees. It's 2 it's 2 SpaceX, ex-SpaceX people that are the heads of it. And neither one of them came to our meeting, but anyway, and I think their biggest thing they're doing is lobbying, but they're getting ready to build a cluster of 4 of them in Utah. I guess to show what it can do, but their plans are that municipalities can buy them, town of Louisa can buy them and provide energy to the people. So, I mean, it's just a lot of stuff going on out there.
Oh, yeah.
In the nuclear industry.
I'm familiar with that and, some of these that they're building, they don't actually require water. I mean,
This one.
methods. But Westinghouse's SMR was literally the size of like a pickup truck. It's 5 megawatts.
Yeah, so anyway, we decided as a board that so we just let them know.
Yeah. Well,
If I could have gone in down next to Alabama and where spent fuel's already stored, they probably would have been able, but they weren't interested in.
Yeah. Well, just to my turn, I'll follow up on it. Very good, Mr. Higgins.
Oh, very briefly, last month on the 8th, we had a board meeting. Ruth and Lori were in attendance. Lori gave a presentation on the regional housing partnership. She must have been persuasive because at the end of her presentation, our board agreed to kick in $10,000 to the RHP. Then we had another board meeting on the 22nd. There was a presentation by a representative of VDOT. Completion of her presentation, which was an update on the status of various projects in Greene. At the completion, we had board members and members of the public who expressed considerable unhappiness with the way the actions are unfolding in the county. This is a perennial concern in Greene. With our ongoing development, I don't expect it to be diminishing anytime soon.
Okay. Well, Mr. Payne?
Yeah, briefly, haven't been too much. I would say probably the biggest things are, our budget process is informally kicking off and will be beginning in earnest soon. We got an update about continual implementation of citywide pedestrian safety improvements as well as improvements to roadway safety throughout the city. There's a number of initiatives underway there, but a long way to go. Likewise, we got an update from about our VDOT portfolio. The city, in order to improve our on-time performance, is going to cancel several projects, some of which started in 2011 and 2016, but have not even begun construction yet. So hopefully we're going to be on a completely different path going forward about our on-time performance and cleaning up the mess there. And then finally, we got a presentation from the city manager about recommendations he had for this upcoming budget session for investments around homelessness in Charlottesville. And probably some of the highlights of that would be funding converting the Salvation Army thrift store into a permanent year-round low barrier shelter, funding the Salvation Army's expansion, which would be a high barrier shelter. In addition to that low barrier shelter, of course, the already funded Premier Circle project for permanent supportive housing units, and in addition, some funding for staff positions around outreach to people who are homeless in Charlottesville and connecting them with social services or entering systems where they could start applying for vouchers and be able to get that. So we'll ensure that will be a big topic in our upcoming budget, how much of that we're able to fund and how we prioritize it.
Yeah, I guess in vis-a-vis the budget, I'm not duplicating this report, but sort of pre-kickoff actually started with the planning commission on the CIP instead of us coming in the middle to say, okay, well, before we start. So there was a discussion there amongst the planning commission a lot to sort of tag the transportation VDOT projects as as we're spending this time thinking about CIP projects, et cetera, do we have a human capital strategy? So that we can actually implement this stuff in a reasonable way. There was that, planning commission also just had, on 29th of October, had a joint meeting with the Albemarle Planning Commission, something we have not done in 5 or 6 years. That focused on resiliency planning for climate change. That was it was an interesting and informative meeting. We need to do this more often. But that's also a staggeringly difficult set of projects and seeking thought and strategy. And one of my concerns about that is we need to, while we do this, and if we're going to jointly move forward in a resiliency plan, we need to have a strategy for implementation. And we need to think about the strategy for implementation as we're thinking about what we're going to implement. So that was an interesting and productive use of time. It was October 29th, which was both National Cat Day and National Hermit Day, and I have no evidence to back this up. I'm sure that that's not a coincidence. We did see what else we got. The funding round is underway for the Affordable Housing Fund and for what we call our HOPS, our operations. One has closed, the other has opened, and apparently there's a whole bunch of meetings in December, January related to that. And I think that covered most of it.
Yeah. So, last and least will be Fluvanna, but Albemarle County. Good.
Sure. So I would say the thing that's occupied the largest portion of our time since we last met has been our comprehensive planning process that we're digging back into. We're kind of starting with the biggest nuts and going down. So we started with 2 meetings ago, kind of engaging on the real core, the kernel that drives the whole comprehensive plan, that drives really all policy in Albemarle. So we had a conversation about the growth management policy. And then yesterday, we went into the development area, kind of plan and how we look at that. And there was a lot of fruitful discussion. I think a few novel ideas have been bandied about and have actually picked up steam, something that Supervisor Galway, I think, actually breathed into life, has gotten, I think, some attention, which is the idea of recognizing that we have parts of the development area that we do not bear fruit from. In my district, the village of Fluvanna, which is an entirely low density single family community that in almost every way kind of fails our stated goals of the development area. And the area itself does not enjoy being a development area. They would like to be something other than that. They just wanted the water service, back in the 80s. They're like, give us water and sewer, and then please go away. So there's a discussion about whether or not it is appropriate to recognize that this is functioning out of development area and find some way to offset that elsewhere in our overall planning process. But that's a big kernel, and that's gonna require some investigation about what that even means, what that looks like. And there was, I think, some early tiptoeing about how we might include accessory dwelling units in the comprehensive plan moving forward. A few different kind of thoughts on that. I think it's fair to say that there was general cautious approval of the idea of ADUs, but a lot of concern about how they might be implemented. And there was a really quite a lot to say about whether or not mixed use development is actually succeeding as we envision it, and what the barriers to that are, and what strategies we should be using our comprehensive planning process to kind of address some of the issues that we're seeing in it really taking off. What we're seeing with vacancies or land. So the thing that like stands out to me is when we were talking about Montclair, way back ago, And there was discussion, oh, what is this whole parcel doing? And they're like, oh, that's the commercial space for the previous development. It's just undeveloped grass, and this is a recurring thing we see in neighborhood models, mixed use development and zoning. We also have recently had a traffic camera go live. So we had a test run of the one traffic camera we have, where it had been recording speeding for a while. It was, I don't have the figures ready off my head, Supervisor Galliano. But they were surprising and troubling numbers of daily speeders. And at the beginning of the month, it actually went live and started issuing tickets after having that warning period. And also, like our pals in the city, we are gearing up for budget season, and we are girding ourselves. Well, it looks like it might be a challenge.
Where is that speeding camera? Where is it?
It's front of Albemarle High School, but it's only during, it's for school zone, it's a school zone.
We are deeply limited in the context in which we can do it. I think there's one other location.
You can do construction zones, I don't.
School zones, that's it. And even school zones isn't limited based on how many traffic incidents have been in that school zone or something.
Albemarle just
Yeah, there is some.
upwards of 55 going through the school zone when the lights are flashing. It's stupid. People, and these are folks that drive and know there's a high school there. This is not out of town traffic. This is. And of course, they're mad that they're getting tickets and
Hundreds every
what
day.
sucks is you can only charge them $100 fine, which is a lower fine than a cop pulls them over, and they don't get demerits because it's through a camera. And the wisdom of the General Assembly, that's one of the things that I just call bullshit on every time I think of it.
I didn't even realize.
I would suspect they could lose their license if they drive.
And people want to say, well, I wasn't driving, somebody else was driving my car. I don't care, it was your car, slow the hell down, it's your responsibility.
Yeah, I'd like to see how that goes in court.
Well, in the city and the county, we've just in the last 3 weeks had pedestrian deaths.
Yeah.
And there are so many kids crossing those roads over there. For you to be driving 55 through that zone, you shouldn't even be driving a car.
Should be locked up.
Well, I mean, that's the whole point, right? Like, the fine's nothing. You go that fast, you need a cop.
Yeah.
And they need to get arrested.
Well, the cops graciously have been out there
Yeah.
backing it up and supporting it.
Yeah.
It's just fun watching. I love getting those complaints. That's one complaint I like to receive and love to respond to.
So you have.
If you're gonna call and complain to me about getting caught speeding, and you're gonna complain about the system we caught you doing it, yeah.
You actually have pedestrian crossings in that.
Yeah.
I mean, plenty could walk to school there.
It's a whole campus, so it's
Yeah.
it's in front of the high school, but behind the high school, of course, is the middle school,
Right.
elementary school, and then the Ivy Creek School. So and then across the street, most of those kids that are moving we have a lot of low-income housing over in that area. So you've got all kids of all ages moving from that side, crossing over. It's very dangerous.
I'll tell you, I'm in my car more often than I have been for years now, and I made a deliberate point in exiting onto Monticello Avenue when we hit the city line. I'm very, very conscious, I'm gonna be 34 miles an hour, it's a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit. You would be shocked at how many people are like furious with me. for
Oh, I
moving
wouldn't
that.
be shocked.
Yeah.
Speeding, and I
Yeah.
don't know how it is everywhere else, but speeding is our.
And on the city streets where it's 25 miles an hour, I'm on my scooter doing 26 miles an hour, and people get furious with me because I'm doing the speed limit. And it's just shocking to me. It's like, this ain't about you. Kill somebody at the bottom of Elliott Avenue.
Our county is trying to get in our legislative packet, the ability to be able to put photo speed cameras on some rural roads where it's dangerous for cops to even be able to pull anybody over.
A speed triggered set of tire spikes that pop up.
It's a huge problem. I'm sure you guys have speeding issues in your counties too. But that, it's just multiplied. And then, we've also got the cameras on the school buses for the people that, we'll just pass the school bus while kids are loading. Fine. Well, I didn't even talk about that. Premier Circle was mentioned by Councilor Payne. We broke ground on Premier Circle. This is over on 29 North, where you have permanent supportive housing and support works, which is the new name of Virginia Housing, will also have offices and be on site there. So the idea is that you can move folks from homelessness into a housing situation, then they receive all the supports they can to get financially stable, to be able to move out of that housing into more permanent housing. But as opposed to having the housing there and the support somewhere else, they're all there on site, working with the folks through the whole facility. Hoping that we'll be back there, cutting the ribbon on that by, I think it'll be about 2 years from now, 2026. But that's and I'm proud of that because that's right in my district. On October 16th, for the third year in a row, Dr. Bailey from Virginia Tech came. She worked with our financial team in the county and provided a regional economic outlook report. It's always a fascinating report. It gets into obviously, since it's our county, we're comparing Albemarle to the state, to what's going on at the national level. And this is always a report that we use that kicks off getting ready for our budget season. But a lot of the information that's in there about housing prices, wages, and poverty levels and median incomes and all of that is regionally, because they look at the metropolitan statistical areas in there as well. So I always call it out just in case folks are interested and want to go read that report. It was on October 16th, and you can find it in the meeting materials there. And then I was pleased to be part of a second group from the University of Virginia, Albemarle County, City of Charlottesville. Christine went as a member of the TJPDC. There was 20, I guess there was 18 of us that went to Champaign-Urbana, where the University of Illinois is. Mike went on the first trip, so this was the second group. And it was to watch and learn more about, they have a wonderful transit system in operation out there. And not just learn about the system, but then also learn about hydrogen powered buses and learning about that whole system. So I was thrilled to be able to go with that, learned a lot. One thing that I did learn is the state of Illinois considers transit a civil right in their constitution. Did not know. And that we found that out because the question was, well, why is Illinois the state that funds transit at the highest level of any state in the country? I said, well, I guess if it's a civil right in your damn constitution, that'll help get the funding. Very different. Illinois is very different in how they fund things from the state of Virginia, but once you kind of parse through all of that, you could see how this body has received reports on the Regional Transit Authority that would initiate with the City of Charlottesville and Albemarle and start to break out. But this is a system that is already partnering with a university in 2 different cities and a county. So it's a great model to be learning from. So hopefully we'll be seeing more of that as we keep pushing on next steps of what to do with the information. When you send 30-some people out there, there should be some follow-up from it. It wasn't just a, oh, hey, for kicks kind of thing. But yeah, that was it. And then I just say it's always hard to see that Rex. I know it was out in Louisa now. It used to be in my district out there on 29 on the river. I still miss Rex. It's out there. Huh? Well, it's a hell of a lot longer than it was.
It's still good.
It's still good too. People ask me about that when they come in. What happened to Rex? I'm like, well, I'll tell you where it is. It's still existing.
Friday nights, usually his mom and dad, her and Junior there. Talking to people, cleaning up tables.
Steam shrimp.
That's awesome.
Champaign-Urbana is a pretty cool place too.
Very neat. It was interesting getting there, 3 flights and.
Did you have 3 connections?
3 connections.
6 flights, 3 days.
It was, but it was well worth it. We had the interim executive director of the Chamber of Commerce was there with us. Like I said, the representative from the president's office at the UVA was there, Colette Sheehy. And then, like I said, Christine was there from TJPDC. We had our reps from both school divisions in the city and the county, and the transit director of UVA was there. So all of that public transit moves all their school children around as well. It's fascinating.
Yeah, really cool.
Thank
Very
you.
cool. All right, Mr. Smith.
Well, since we were talking about the housing summit, I thought I'd go ahead and depress people about house pricing. Housing. And so the importance of the summit and the importance of us coming up with solutions. This is year to date, literally as of this morning. median sales prices, all product types, so that's attached, detached condos. Albemarle County, year over year, you're up 7.5%. Charlottesville, you're up 15% year over year. Greene, 3.25%. Our county, Fluvanna, is the winner. We're at 1.5%. Nelson County is the opposite direction, 24% up. And Louisa, you are 6% up. So Nelson County was a big winner. You were flat on inventory though, sales inventory, but you were up 80K, 24%.
What was the median sales price?
Blah, blah, blah. You would ask me that. Hang on a second.
Don't you guys have tree houses out there?
411.
Jesus Christ.
I'm gonna work on the inventory problems in Nelson.
But inventory is about at 2016 level.
Yeah.
Prices though, generally across the board are up. So to some it's important, coming up solutions.
How many sales is that based on in Nelson? Like, is that something that can be?
Nelson,
as an outlier?
yeah, well, it's 107.
Everybody was.
You guys are the, you guys are actually at 1,100, 1,200. You know, the two big, volume is obviously Charlottesville and Albemarle. But percentage wise, you're going up. That's the exciting news I have.
Thank you.
Everybody can shoot it.
Just to follow up a little bit on those nuclear reactors, I think I mentioned last meeting that the Fluvanna County instituted one of the most restrictive solar ordinances in the state. 500 setbacks on rivers, and streams, so that's 1,000 feet on either side, so that's pretty restrictive if you then have 1,000 feet from major roads and so on. But during that meeting, when public comments were happening, a couple of people spoke about the fact that this small modular nuclear reactor program was coming up. And, that was the good news. The exciting news is that nuclear is coming. And I had to ask the audience a question of how many of them would like to have that in their backyard? Which is why I brought up that question in terms of, how appealing would it be for you to have that in your backyard? But separate from that, we are continuing our march forward to stay very rural, and we will be revisiting our cluster ordinance subdivision next meeting. As many of you know, that can be put in place when you have high growth, and so that was put in place. People probably know this maybe 15, 20 years ago, but I suspect that we will be removing that feature so that landowners will not have the rights to put in higher density into their properties. Not that we have a lot of people taking advantage of it anyhow, but I have feeling that we'll be reverting to, 5 minor subdivisions, so 5 houses, on 2 acres, the standard lot size, and the great. So 5 acres to go to a major subdivision. So that's pretty much what's going on. We're starting the budget season process. We are going to do a staff survey, and we were looking at an outside firm to do that survey for us. Traditionally, we've done that internally, but we felt like we might get some, feedback from staff members who are concerned that their answers are not anonymous enough, and so that's what we're looking at. That I don't know if any of you guys have done that in the past, and if you have anything to share as far as firms that you use and how you go about that, certainly I appreciate that commentary. I'm trying to think if anything else is exciting that I can talk about. There's also exciting things going on that I can talk about in public. So
We're really thinking about putting the small nuclear power plants in our county. Please
I'm just sharing what some public members felt, that they were very excited about that, and that the reason we didn't need solar was because this was coming, and I just thought that was very interesting, that they felt that would be something that they wanted in their backyard. But
Ernie, what decade was it Nelson was getting a nuclear reactor?
What year was it?
Yeah.
It was back in 3 Mile Island days.
And that was that.
It was Nelson.
No, it was gonna happen in Nelson County, and 3 Mile Island happened.
That's right.
Bam.
That was that.
That was it.
Bam.
And end of story.
Which is now opening 3 Mile Island.
Yeah.
They're cranking it up. It's good.
Deja vu all over again.
Microsoft, isn't it?
Yeah.
Through one of those constellation of it.
Yeah.
Constellation.
Well, it is, as you brought up, energy and water, those are the big things right now, and so meeting the energy demand is gonna be a real challenge for Virginia. And you can certainly expect these SMRs to pick up steam. And it's very impressive technology as we pointed out.
Louisa County is exciting.
All right.
Mr. Chair, can I make one last comment?
Yes.
I forgot to note this, I wrote it on a post-it note, but, for those of you not familiar, the Charlottesville Area Alliance, it's an alliance of, folks that are committed to planning for age-friendly communities. We do partner with them, we chair their transportation committee, we, support their, housing, work, but they do have an annual report that they shared with us. There's hard copies on your way out if you are interested in taking a look at that. I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Anybody want to entertain a motion to adjourn? So moved. A motion to adjourn. Second. Anybody? All right. That's a nice thing.